Alright, what's up guys? Back for another video talking about security. It's storming pretty hard up here, as you might be able to see here. But yeah, we're just going to continue pretty much where we left off the other day on the discussion about security. Let me turn on the light. It's a little bit dark in here at the moment. See if this is any better. Alright. Yeah, so pretty much picking up where we left off in the last video. And in this one, I hope to answer the question, how difficult is it to get into security? Well, TLDR, I will say that it's easier than you think. That would be my 2-second response. But yeah, so we're in the year 2020 now, and as is the case with pretty much everything now, there's information is abundant, in the technology era. There's so many resources out there for helping get you up to speed in whatever avenue of security it is that you want to specialize in, whatever path you want to go down. There's a lot of resources out there that you can pretty much learn coming from any level of skill, which is pretty cool, right? But, this differs from, fields like doctors, lawyers, where, in those fields, it doesn't matter how much you learned off the internet. There's, you have to have the schooling, you have to have the degrees in order to be able to work in those fields, right? Well, happy to say security is not that way. So even if you have no prior experience, and I would even go as far as to say you don't even necessarily have to have a college degree to work in this field. In fact, there's quite a lot of people that are making a living in this field without having college degrees. Now, I will say that a college degree does help, and it's definitely something that looks nice on your resume, and it's going to make life a lot easier. So, if you're still in college or whatever, then, just going down a route, security, that's another thing about security, right? There's a lot of different degrees that I normally see people have when they end up getting into security later on. All different backgrounds, really. Like, we've seen computer science majors, MIS. In my case, I went for a security degree, which you got to be careful because a lot of the security degrees offered at schools are scams. But I went to a pretty major university, major public university, and I studied security and risk analysis, and that program there was backed by the NSA, so it did hold a lot of credibility in the eyes of employers. But yeah, you got to be careful with that if you're going for a pure security degree. Definitely do your research. But I'll make another video like really going into like the majors and the college aspect of getting into this field. But for now, I'll just pretty much shelve it after saying that if you have a college degree, it's definitely going to help make things easier when you're looking for employment in this field. But even if you don't, like I was saying, even if you don't, there's still opportunity for you. So now, with the advent of stuff like bug bounties, right? I don't know if you are familiar with those. I will cover that in another video as well, because as someone that's interested in security, I think it's good to know about bug bounties. Basically what they are companies will pay hackers money to find vulnerabilities. And those hackers, it could be anyone. You don't have to be employed or anything or do it full time. Pretty much you just try to find a vulnerability. If you do, you report it to them. Some of them are cache eligible. So now if you're someone that signed up on a site like this, like HackerOne, BugCrowd, those are the two really big ones. If you do bug bounties and you happen to have a lot of findings, you could get recognized in that community, and you can get invited to private bug bounties and stuff like that. And basically, even without a college degree, if you are pretty successful in that area, chances are a company might try and hire you. I know that personally, I know a few people that have made it in through that avenue. So not all is lost if you don't have a college degree, and that is the first most readily, I guess, most ready example that comes to my mind when it comes to that. But yeah, so that's just one example there. And now let's say And I will have individual videos on all these to really go in depth. I just want to give you guys the sort of rundown, sort of whet your appetite for this right now, give you an overview of this, right? But the easiest way, I would say if I had to describe the easiest way to get into security, not necessarily the quickest way, but the most surefire way to get into security. And when I say security, I'm mostly thinking of one of the more technical security roles, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I guess what's coming to mind is like an offensive role or a defensive role, something that is pretty, like, not just metrics, right? Like, but actually performing pretty technical work. The easiest way to get into the field would be to come from another area of IT. And this is something that I actually did. I mean, I did have the security degree from four-year college, but when I started in backup and recovery, so the IT operations side. Now, another very common path over there would be system administrators, people that are, say, like Windows admins or Linux admins. It's pretty common for them to get into security as well. And also, another thing that I'll mention, and I know I keep saying this, it might be a little bit annoying, hopefully it's not getting on your nerves too much, but another thing is, like, depending on where you come from, you'll be more inclined to different areas of security. So one thing that comes to mind, if you're coming from a sysadmin role, it's pretty likely that you might be hired on for vulnerability management on the security side. And so what vulnerability management is, it kind of dovetails nicely with the sysadmin stuff. Looks like the sun's about to come out again. But what that is like security on, like, at the operating system level, right? Like basically, in layman's terms, like the programs that are running on these servers, Windows servers or Linux servers, you do vulnerability scans on these servers, and based on if anything's out of date, anything has known vulnerabilities, it'll flag it, and then you pretty much determine whether or not it's a false positive, and you communicate it back to the infrastructure team so they can remediate those vulnerabilities. But that's a very common role that you would see a sysadmin transition to when getting into security. On the flip side, if, say, you're a developer, which is another, any IT is really easy to get into security with some experience under your belt. In fact, and I might have said this in my last video, but in fact, it's actually more common to start off in another position in IT and then go to security than it is to just straight up start in security. So that is actually a pretty traditional path, I would say. But another example would be a developer. So let's say, for example here, a web app developer, a guy that works on, like, full stack web application development. Well, he's going to be more inclined to, like, a web app pen testing role. I mean, seems pretty self-explanatory, right? Because he's actually has experience building these, so he's going to have an easier time testing them for vulnerabilities and stuff like that. But don't think that just because you start off in one area that you're locked in to having to do that one area of security. That's why it's always important to have a goal, whether it's with security or anything, especially in the corporate world. Have a goal, have a sense of direction where you want to go, because here's the reality, right? If you don't have a goal for where you want to go, someone else is going to make that goal for you. They're going to tell you pretty much what they want out of you. So if a lot of people are easygoing, especially in this field, right? And they're like, oh yeah, I want to try a little of this or a little of that, but honestly, if you don't have a vision in mind, someone else is going to tell you what that vision is. So don't think you're locked in by any means. And some companies are pretty flexible in their security programs, where you can even, like, they do, like, role swaps and stuff where people will switch over to another area of security sometimes. I'm blanking on the technical term for that, but sometimes they'll swap people out. It really depends on your employer. But yeah, those are the most common ones that come to mind as far as from IT. But I mean, it's not limited to that, obviously. Like, I came from backup and recovery, right? And I went from that to pen testing, like the web app pen testing team, and now I'm just like a pen tester. So definitely flexibility, but I knew from the start, like, this is where I wanted to go. So when I interviewed, and that was the thing, right? Like I said, I started off back up in recovery. When I first went to security, it was a lateral movement within my same company. So look for that as an opportunity as well. This is the last thing I'll say in closing here, because I know this video is getting a bit lengthy. But yeah, the final thing I will say is don't sleep on the lateral movements. Don't think that you have to go to a different company in order to work in security, especially if, obviously if your company has security in-house and they're not outsourcing it. Definitely see if your company has a security program, and see if you can make the lateral movement, because you're at a great advantage in the hiring HR process when it comes to that, because they would much rather hire someone that's already inside the company. It's a lot less headache for them, less liability for them. You're going to be up to speed on things quicker because you've worked within that company for a while. You sort of understand how things work. It's going to be a lot less paperwork involved. So you're actually at a great advantage. In fact, a lot of times when these companies try to hire, first they say, okay, is there anyone that we can bring in-house already? So yeah, don't sleep on that at all, guys. But yeah, let me know if you have any comments or questions down in the comments section below. I hope this was of value to you guys, and I will see you in the next video.